Hey there. So picture this. You're on a sailing ship in the middle of the Atlantic. It's 1828. The only sounds are the wind in the sails and the creak of the timbers. And then, on the horizon, a speck appears. It grows. It's another ship, but it's not flying any colors. A chill goes down your spine. You pray it's a trader. But as it gets closer, you see the decks are swarming with men. And then, they run up a flag. It's black. And in that moment, you know. You're not just facing pirates. You're facing a ghost ship. Because the man commanding it had a simple, brutal policy: leave no one alive to tell the tale. Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Underworld Kings, the rise and fall from Light Not Studios. Today, we're diving into one of the most ruthlessly efficient and, frankly, terrifying pirates of the post-Golden Age. This is Episode 13, The Ghost of the Galleon. How Benito de Soto pioneered the no-witnesses pirate policy. Now, Benito de Soto wasn't some romantic, rum-swilling rogue. He was a modern psychopath operating in the age of sail. He was a Galician from Spain, and he started his maritime career legitimately, aboard a Brazilian slave ship called the Defensor de Pedro. But on a voyage from Africa to Brazil in 1827, de Soto and a band of mutineers saw a better opportunity. They seized the ship. They renamed it the Perla Negra, the Black Joke, and they set out not for treasure islands, but for the busy shipping lanes between the Cape of Good Hope and the Americas. He wasn't looking for legendary loot. He was looking for efficiency, and his innovation was horror. Most pirates of earlier eras understood a certain economy of violence. You terrorize a crew into surrendering their cargo. You might maroon them. You might even kill a few to make a point, but survivors were part of the ecosystem. They spread the fear. They were the advertising. De Soto saw survivors as a liability. A witness could identify him, could describe his ship, could lead the British or Spanish navies right to him. So he instituted a policy that was chilling in its simplicity: total annihilation. Every ship he took, every soul on board, was to be eliminated. His ship would then vanish, a ghost. No stories escaped from the Perla Negra, only silence. And this wasn't a rumor. This was his standard operating procedure. His most infamous act demonstrates this cold calculus perfectly. In February of 1828, off the coast of South Africa, he spotted a galleon. This was the Morning Star, a British ship sailing from Ceylon to England, carrying not just cargo but families, women and children. De Soto gave chase for hours, finally pulling alongside. He opened fire, killing several people immediately. Once the Morning Star was disabled, his pirates boarded. They herded the entire surviving crew and passengers, men, women, children, down into the hold. They looted the ship of everything valuable. And then, De Soto gave the order. They nailed down the hatches. They then took axes and began chopping holes in the hull of the Morning Star, intending to scuttle it with everyone trapped inside, left to drown in the dark. Think about the psychology of that for a second. This isn't a heat of battle killing. This is systematic, premeditated murder. It's a factory line of death. Loot, then eliminate the evidence. The Perla Negra wasn't a pirate ship. It was a moving crime scene, and De Soto was ensuring there were no witnesses. But fate, or the sea, intervened. The Morning Star sank slower than anticipated. Some of those trapped below managed, in a desperate frenzy, to break out just as the ship was going down. They scrambled into boats or clung to wreckage. A few were miraculously rescued days later. And for the first time, the world heard a first-hand account from a target of Benito de Soto. The ghost ship had left a survivor, and the story was worse than anyone had imagined. De Soto, unaware that his policy had failed, continued his grim work. He sailed to Cadiz, Spain, brazenly posing as a legitimate slave trader to sell his plunder. This audacity was part of his profile, a calculated risk he believed was safe because, in his mind, no one was left to contradict his story. He then set sail again, but the Atlantic had its own justice. A ferocious storm caught the Perla Negra off the coast of Gibraltar, smashing the ship onto the rocks. Most of the crew drowned. De Soto and a handful of men survived, making it to shore near Tarifa. And here's where his own arrogance, born of his no-witnesses success, undid him. Stranded, he decided to rob a local stagecoach. It was a petty, land-based crime, a world away from the grand terror of the high seas. And he was terrible at it. He and his men were quickly captured by Spanish authorities. Now, at first, they had no idea they had caught the infamous ghost pirate. He was just another bandit. But his own crew, perhaps seeking leniency, turned on him. They revealed his true identity and the full scope of his atrocities. The authorities connected the dots to the Morning Star survivor accounts. The ghost had been captured, not at sea, but in a muddy ditch by a roadside. His trial was swift. Benito de Soto was sentenced to hang, and even at the gallows, he displayed a grotesque flair. Legend says he adjusted the noose around his own neck with a practiced hand, kicked away the ladder before the executioner could, and died as he lived, in control of the final, violent act. His head was then stuck on a pike at the southern tip of Spain, a grisly warning overlooking the very straits he had terrorized. So, what's the takeaway from Benito de Soto's brief, brutal reign? As an engineer, I'm fascinated by systems and efficiencies, even monstrous ones. De Soto engineered a system of piracy stripped of all romance, all tradition, all unnecessary risk. He identified the core problem, witnesses, and applied the most direct solution. In a twisted way, he was a pioneer of operational security. He understood that in an increasingly interconnected world with growing naval patrols, the old pirate ways were unsustainable. His innovation wasn't in navigation or swordsmanship. It was in forensic awareness, a century before forensics was a common concept. He wasn't just stealing cargo. He was trying to erase the crime itself. But his story also shows us the fatal flaw in such a system of absolute cruelty. It creates a kind of psychological brittleness. The belief that you have eliminated all loose ends breeds an unsustainable arrogance. De Soto thought he was untouchable because he left no stories behind. But the sea always keeps a record. A storm, a survivor, a disgruntled crewman. These are the variables his brutal equation couldn't solve for. He failed to account for chaos, for luck, and for the simple fact that human beings, when faced with a dark, flooding hold, will fight like hell to live and tell their story. His legacy is a dark footnote. He didn't inspire legends of buried treasure or a pirate's code. He inspired dread. He showed just how far a person could go to remove humanity from the act of theft, turning piracy into a form of serial killing on the high seas. He was the ghost of the Galleon, a warning that the greatest monsters aren't the ones who roar, but the ones who work in silence. Thanks for listening to this journey into the dark Atlantic. I'm Abnul J. Farabi. If you found this story compelling, please do share the episode with someone who loves deep dives into history's shadows. For more stories of the rise and fall of history's most fascinating underworld kings, make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. This has been Underworld Kings, produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our work and discover our other documentary podcasts at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, take care.